Good evening. First of all, so grateful to be speaking tonight. As Dimitri mentioned, my name is Arash Azizzada. I'm the co-director of Afghans for Better Tomorrow. I'm an immigrant and Afghan American, and actually now reside in Brooklyn, New York, after I moved from Los Angeles. I want to take you back to 1980, almost 46 years ago. My father left using an airplane to evacuate and relocate himself because the Soviet Union had invaded Afghanistan just 2 weeks prior. My father was one of the first political asylum seekers in the Netherlands, where I was born, but he was one of the very first refugees, 7 million of which left the country right after, and millions of which left in the aftermath in the decades following. Now, my father started a career organizing his community, supporting Afghans, and I am proud to have stepped in his footsteps. It's an unfortunate career that I have chosen, but it's one that is necessary. In 2018, we kind of saw a similar trajectory. The United States, for almost 20 years, has supported Afghans in Afghanistan, in civil society, to build institutions, to support democracy and human rights. But similarly to what we are seeing in Ukraine, we saw a betrayal of elected members of Congress, of the president during the first Trump administration, and a complete sellout and betrayal and abandonment of the Afghans who had stood alongside the United States, who had worked with the U.S. military and U.S. service people, who had been bodyguards and supporting U.S. diplomats for all, at that time, close to 18 to 19 years. Now, we all saw what happened in 2021. President Biden completed the withdrawal that President Trump set into motion, and initially 80,000 people came to the United States. That's where our organization started. We started welcoming people all across the country, first on military bases, and then in communities across the United States. 200,000 Afghans, over 200,000 Afghans now live in your neighborhoods, in your communities, here in New York, but in small towns and cities all across this country. They are pillars of the community. They're delivering people's food on DoorDash. They are your Uber drivers. They are pillars. They are servicing this country. They are the backbone, like many other immigrants, like many people in your communities who very much are also servicing and making sure that this country is running. But what we saw in the wake of the tragedy of November 26th, a horrendous crime that happened in Washington, D.C., attributed to an entire community that entirely racially, ethnically, communally scapegoats all of us. And what we've seen in the wake of that tragedy is nothing but pain. I can tell you that there were Afghans in the pipeline to be relocated to the United States. All visas since then have been banned. There were people who showed up to the airport in Pakistan and third countries who showed up on their way on the very last part of their relocation journey, who had gone through the biometrics, who had gone to U.S. Embassy and consulates, whose visa was taken away at the airport. That is what is happening in the past 2 weeks. Also, for our already newly relocated Afghans who are in your neighborhoods and in your communities, they are under attack. What we're seeing also now is a revetting, a policy that was actually announced the Monday before the shooting. However, the shooting and the tragedy in Washington, D.C. gave President Trump and his administration a very useful excuse to revet, to target, and to scapegoat our community. Our community is petrified. I'm fielding calls before I came here tonight and in the days prior of community members who are often scared. They are petrified of what's going to come next. What we see in Afghanistan is similar to what many of you feel. You were all exiled or a family of exiled people. My family is very much the same. They fled persecution. They fled war. They fled conflict. I had family members who were tortured by either communists in Afghanistan or communist-backed regimes in the late 1970s. We, as people in this room, in my community, have felt similar pain, similar suffering, similar repression at the hands of people who don't present light, but they represent darkness. And unfortunately, what we see in the leadership of this country is a similar darkness. And I will say that one of my highlights this year was our work alongside Dmitry. I'm glad to have met him and to have introduced me to this Russian-speaking community here in New York, because I'm not here today just to ask you for your solidarity and to not forget about our community, not forget about the sacrifices that my community has made, but specifically 200,000 people who have given it all, people who have lost family members, people who have had family tortured and killed by the Taliban. Protesters in Afghanistan currently with no pathway to come to the United States are sexually assaulted, are tortured inside prisons run by the Taliban, a regime that is now in place partially because of American foreign policy. I speak out loud about all these things, and I just realized even today how much we actually have in common. I stand in solidarity with the suffering and the pain that you feel. And also, I will ask you to call on us in our community to stand with you whenever that is necessary. When we saw the invasion of Ukraine, actually, which came also right in the wake of the U.S. withdrawal, the withdrawal happened in August of 2021, and by February, we saw the invasion of Ukraine, and to us, these are histories that are repeating, political lessons that are not being learned. And we feel similar betrayal of people who stand for human rights, who stand for democracy, who stand for values, human values, and who are then left behind and abandoned. I'll just close on this note. We are in crisis at the moment. I'm going home to talk to families who've been called into Federal Plaza, 26 Federal Plaza for ICE check-ins. We've had multiple members of our community members detained. We see a federal government that is frankly out of control and is violating federal orders by a judge to not relocate our community members to faraway places like Louisiana and Texas. And so that is the fight we currently have at our hands. They are dark forces, the same forces that many of us or our family members have fled in the past. And I will just say that we might not be speaking the same language, we might not have similar cultures, but we are fighting the same forces. And so as I ask for your solidarity, I ask, or I offer our own communities to yours. And I hope that our cooperation on supporting immigrant and refugee communities doesn't end with the work that we did this year, but continues, because to be quite frank, we have quite a fight ahead of us. But just standing in this room, seeing and hearing the speeches from your community members, I'm feeling energized and rejuvenated for this fight. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here today. Thank you, Shanika. Thank you to all of you.
Yeah, thanks, Arash. I think that's what we need to do more of across these boundaries that we very rarely cross.